beloved Srimati Radha Rani, and I offer all obeisances to you, the Supreme Lord, who displays unlimited pastimes. Shri Damodarashtakam ki jai. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanarvind Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Shri Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki, Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy, Text 41. Purtena tapasa yajnair दानैर योग समाधिना राढं निःश्रेयसं पुंसाम् मत्प्रीतेस्तत्त्वविन्मतम्। पूर्तेन तपसा यज्ञैर दानैर्योगसमाधिना राद्धं निःश्रेयसं पुंसाम् मत्प्रीतेस्तत्त्वविन्मतम्। पूर्तेन तपसा यज्ञैर दानैर्योगसमाधिना राढं निःश्रेयसं पुंसाम् मत्प्रीतिस्तत्त्वविन्मतम्। पूर्तेन तपसा यज्ञैर दानैर्योगसमाधिना राढं निःश्रेयसं पुंसाम् मत्प्रीतिस्तत्त्वविन्मतम्। Anyone else? Oh, sorry. निःश्रेयसं पुंसाम् Okay, anyone else? Purteന tapasa yajñair दानैर्योगसमाधिना निःश्रेयसं पुंसाम् मत्प्रीतिस्तत्त्वविन्मतम्। Purtena, by traditional good work. Tapasa, by penances. Yajñai, by sacrifices. Danai, by charities. Yoga, by mysticism. Samadhina, by trance. Radham, success. Nishreyasam, ultimately beneficial. Pumsam, of the human being. Mat, of me. Pritihi, satisfaction. Tattvavet, expert transcendentalists. Matam, opinion. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It is the opinion of expert transcendentalists that the ultimate goal of performing all traditional good works, penances, sacrifices, charities, mystic activities, trances, etc., is to invoke my satisfaction. There are many traditionally pious activities in human society, such as altruism, philanthropy, nationalism, internationalism, charity, sacrifice, penance, and even meditation in trance. And all of them can be fully beneficial only when they lead to the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The perfection of any activity, social, political, religious, or philanthropic, is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. This secret of success is known to the devotee of the Lord, as exemplified by Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. As a good non-violent man, Arjuna did not want to fight with his kinsman. But when he understood that Krishna wanted the fight and had arranged it at Kurukshetra, he gave up his own satisfaction and fought for the satisfaction of the Lord. That is the right decision for all intelligent men. One's only concern should be to satisfy the Lord by one's activities. If the Lord is satisfied by an action, whatever it may be, then it is successful. Otherwise, it is simply a waste of time. That is the standard of all sacrifice, penance, austerity, mystic trance, and other good and pious work. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please guide me to see, guide all of us to see how through every situation, when we work for your pleasure, we do the best good for ourselves and for others. Hare Krishna. So today morning, we are discussing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, and this is the Lord responding to Brahma's prayers for creative energy, and he is speaking. So I'll talk about this in 3 broad parts. I'll use the standard acronym that I use, CHIT. First, we'll look at the context of what is going on over here. Then we'll get some insights. And finally, we'll have a takeaway. How can we apply in our life? So what is the context over here? This is one of the first places in the Bhagavatam where the Lord is speaking directly. It's significant that in the entire first canto, Krishna appears at many places, but there are very few verses where Krishna is directly speaking, like Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Those words don't come. In response to Kunti's prayers, Krishna smiles. In response to Arjuna's request, what is this weapon? Arjuna's inquiry. Krishna answers, but there's not much speech. Even later on, when we have Krishna going to Dwarka, his actions are described. How he hugs his equals, blesses his juniors, offers his respects to his elders. But Krishna's words are not described so much. Even in the second canto, there's not much description of Krishna speaking. It's not there. It's not that it's not there. This is the first major section where we have Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The maximum this comes is in the 10th canto and the 11th canto. where we have Krishna speaking. Actually, Krishna, even in the 10th canto, there are more of Krishna's actions than words. Krishna's words come the most in the 11th canto in the Uddhav Gita. There are, of course, other places, 3rd canto, where Krishna gives instructions as Kapila Dev. But here, the Lord is speaking. So, this is the first major instance in the Bhagavatam of the Lord speaking. And when he is speaking, what is the broader context? Right now, there is no existence. See, approximately from this point onwards, 3rd canto onwards, 3.9c onwards, still around 12th canto near the end, we can say that the Bhagavatam is like a biography of one of the universe. Or more precisely, it's the biography of one day in the universe. And within that, any biography that is written, the focus is the biographer has to select which incidents to highlight and which incidents to downplay. So, in this narrative, where the major part of 3rd and 4th cantos, actually from there onwards till the 7th canto, the focus is on the first Manu. The first Manu is the Swayambhu Manu. And then from the 8th canto onward, there's a quick description of the next 6 Manus in just one chapter, less than one chapter. And then after that, from the 8th canto onwards, the description is of the current Manu. That is the Vaivasvat Manu. So, like that, there are mainly particular incidents in the universe history that are described within one day. So, Swayambhuva Manu, in his life, especially again, those incidents where the Lord appears or some great devotees do some actions, that is described. And after that, Vaivasvat Manu. Now, within this, or before all this starts happening, before the Manus appear, at that time, the creation is yet to begin. And Brahmaji has appeared and he is in space and he is spaced out. The space is all around him and it's completely overwhelming. It's dark. He doesn't know where he is, who he is, what he is supposed to do. And at that time, after performing austerity, on hearing the word tapa, he gets to have the darshan of the Lord. He offers his prayers and the Lord is responding. So we could say, in the history of the universe, this is the first conversation. From the historical point, not the first conversation in the Bhagavatam, but within the history of the Bhagavatam, this is the first conversation. And creation itself is a very intricate process. Now, we have had the temple renovated, and those who are involved in the renovation, it requires immense attention to every detail to make things happen. So, this is just one temple, and one part of a temple being constructed. Brahmaji is the creator for the whole universe. And creating things requires attention to detail. But while there is attention to detail, it's also important to remember the ultimate purpose. So whenever we are working, there are two extremes. One is we get so caught we get focused only on the details and we forget the ultimate purpose. And sometimes we remember the purpose, but we forget the details. Like, I'm cooking for Krishna, and somebody may have very devotional consciousness. Oh, I'm hearing Krishna Kirtan, this is Radharani's kitchen, there are pictures of Krishna. But you forget to put sugar in sweet rice. That won't work. So, on one side, we have to pay attention to details. But on the other side, we also need to remember the purpose. So, both are required. That it is by knowing the details, we are careful. We are careful in a practical sense. And by remembering the purpose, we keep our consciousness devotional. We are we are practically careful, but we also need to be spiritual. So we are going to be careful practically, but we can't get so caught in the details. So in this particular verse, what we are discussing, this bigger picture is being talked about. That yes, in the world, there will be many different activities that will need to be done. Brahma himself will have to do many activities, and the subsequent living beings will do many activities. We all have our jobs, we have our families, we have so many things to do. But it's being said over here, at the ultimate purpose and perfection of all the activities is mat priti. And the Lord is not saying so much that this is my opinion. He is saying tattvavit mataha, tattvavin mataha. This is the opinion of the learned people. And this is a consistent theme that comes in the Bhagavatam, that whatever we do, we are meant to do it ultimately for the pleasure of the Lord. So this is the big picture directive being given by Brahma to Brahma by the Lord over here. So let's move on to the next part, the insight. As many of you know, last almost a decade I have been trying to focus on Western outreach. So I spent 6-7 months outside India. And then remaining time also I'm mentally more in the West, thinking of how best to present spiritual concepts to new people. So this concept of pleasing God, it's very difficult for new people to appreciate. So I have been thinking of how do you explain that? And I had been hearing the lectures of Radha Maharaj, especially given to Western audiences. And it struck me that he uses a very attractive phrase over there. Instead of saying acting to please God or please Krishna, he says acting in harmony with God's love, or acting in harmony with the divine love. It's a very beautiful but profound phrase. That why do we want to please the Lord? It's not that it's we want to flatter the Lord to get something from Him. Or it's not that the Lord is a tyrant, that if we don't please the Lord, then He will get angry and He will punish us. So, sometimes there are power-hungry rulers. They can be kings, they can be bosses, they can be heads of state. And one little sign of disrespect, if we don't go out of our way to please them, they will go out of our way to make our life miserable. Isn't it? It's not like that. This pleasing is acting in harmony with God's love. So, this idea of love for Krishna is the ultimate reality. There are many levels of reality, but the supreme reality of existence is that Krishna loves us and we are meant to love Krishna. That's what, for Parikshit Maharaj, his whole world falls apart. For a minor fault, he's cursed to die. But he's not agitated because for him, this is the bigger reality. And he's acting in harmony with that bigger reality. So I'll talk about how can we this please Krishna. What does this mean? I'll explain this in 3 broad steps. That A, C, and T. Act. It can inspire us to act in harmony with God's law. So first is appreciate. That quite often we feel life around us is so confusing, even chaotic. This is happening over there and that is happening over there, and nowadays there are so many changes. AI may take so many jobs away, and there are so many fears about. So life seems quite chaotic. So when we turn towards Krishna, the first step is that we understand Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti. So things are, they may make no sense to me, but there is some sense in how things are happening. That there is some higher order in the world. God is not just some being up there who doesn't care for this world at all. And many times, the way Prabhupada talks about here is that philanthropic work or any kind of political, social, cultural work, he says we do it for the pleasure of the Lord. So what happens is, quite often, we are here in the world and Krishna is above us. So now sometimes we may think of these two as completely, as almost, if not opposite, but unconnected. Like I either worship Krishna or I act in the world. And so I come to the temple, I do some sadhana, I hear some class, and then I go out and deal with the practical issues of life. The two can seem, if we have this vision, the two can seem very unconnected. And this can be taken towards an extreme where we feel that our bhakti is irrelevant. Or rather sometimes people may think that what we are doing as bhakti, it is just irrelevant. It has got nothing to do with the world. And unfortunately, we as devotees also have perpetuated that idea to some extent. That, oh, this world is dukkhala, you cannot do anything about this world. Now, as our movement is not growing very much in the West. Many devotees are trying in various ways to try to grow. Of course, many Indians are coming. So it's more becoming, Prabhupada started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. What is happening now, it's becoming an Indian Society for Krishna Consciousness with international branches. And there are many people everywhere, but not many Westerners are coming. So there was some devotees who did a survey, not recently, a few years ago, of what do Americans in general think about the Hare Krishnas. So there are different opinions, but one thread that came, one theme that came, that was one person articulated very nicely, sir, a bunch of jolly, impractical people. So we dance and sing on the streets. So we are jolly, but what has that singing and dancing on the streets got to do with real life? So it can appear as if what we are doing is completely irrelevant to the world. So we are pursuing our self-realization and we are happy in our spiritual life. And that's good, at least over there is positive. We are not creating trouble for the world. But there's some religious hardliners who do that. And there is the fastest growing religious denomination in the world, in the Western world, in America, is called nuns. It's not N-U-N, nun, it is N-O-N-E, nun. So, and nun means, what is your religious affiliation? None. I don't care for it at all. Their idea is that you religious people fight about the nature of the other world and you create trouble in this world. So I don't want anything to do with this world at all. I don't want anything to do with religion at all. So, but this is not the vision that the Gita has. At the first level, it's not just Krishna is up there. Actually, the understanding is that while Krishna is up there, actually the world is also within Krishna. Yataha pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam. From whom the world has come and by whom the world is pervaded. So we appreciate that whatever is happening in the world, there is some higher purpose. That it may not make any sense to me, but there is some sense. And our scriptures acknowledge that there's a lot of mess in the world today. But then the higher sense is that this is the change of the cosmic seasons. This is Kali Yuga. And in Kali Yuga, there is going to be a lot of mess. But that doesn't mean Kali Yuga is out of the control of the Lord. Kali Yuga is also within the control of the Lord. So that we appreciate. That things are moving towards something good. That good may take a long time to come, but things are moving towards something good. We appreciate that God is overseeing things. So we're talking about pleasing Krishna. Pleasing Krishna may seem far away for a person who thinks that God itself is irrelevant. So the first level is we appreciate that there is a divine reality. And when we appreciate, what happens is, so this appreciation gives us some peace. That I may not be able to make sense of things, but things do make sense. There is some sense in the things. And that's why studying scripture is so important. Now, nowadays, if we don't study Shastra, don't hear classes, the world is coming to us everywhere through our devices, this breaking news here, that happened over there, that happened over there. So, we end up being overfed on the world and underfed on the word. the word of God. And the more we are overfed on the world, that means, oh, this happened here and that happened there and that thing happened over, that person did that, we will become more and more agitated. We'll become more and more restless. So when we appreciate that Krishna is in control, that gives us some level of peace. One of the characteristics of Kali Yuga is upadrutaha. The mind is constantly agitated. And one reason is that, many reasons, but one reason it is agitated is because nothing makes sense. And we don't look at scripture, we look more and more at the world. And it just seems very chaotic. That's why, just even if we study scripture regularly, we understand that there is a higher plan. That conviction comes to us. Shraddhava labhate jnanam tatparah sanyatendriya jnanam labdhva param shantim achirena adhigacchati. Shanti, that peacefulness comes. So appreciate that there is some higher plan. Now, that's at a more, just like a passive or a jnani, contemplative level. Okay, there is some higher plan. But the next is, we don't just appreciate, we connect. Connect means what? That we understand that not only is God moving things towards some good, God can use me as a part of His plan. That God can use me and I can do some good in the world through my connection with God. So, Krishna is controlling the whole world ultimately, but Krishna wants to act through me. So the first step is I look upwards to appreciate that there is a higher plan. The second step is I connect with Krishna in a mood of service. And then through that connection, we don't just get peace, we get a sense of purpose. And that is even more important for us. That, yeah, things are happening, and this is happening there, and that is happening there. But what am I meant to do about it? So that sense of purpose is very important. The Gita is not just abstract spiritual knowledge. Krishna is not just telling Arjuna, Maya Dakshina Prakriti. Krishna is also telling Arjuna, you be a part of my plan. Tasmat tvam uttishta yasho labhasva. He tells, you become a part of my plan. That connection, as Krishna tells upon 11:33, you become a part of my plan. And when you become a part of my plan, you will get a higher purpose. And for each one of us, this sense of purpose, this sense of mission is extremely important. And this is where Srila Prabhupada in the Ishopanishad talks about a theme similar to what he's talking in the purport over here. Kuruvan evehe karmani jijivishe chatam samaha. And that purport, Srila Prabhupada says that one may live for hundreds of years if one is living in harmony. So somebody may pursue nationalism. Prabhupada uses the word internationalism over here. Nowadays the word more commonly the global world order, globalism. So all these, there are different ways in which different people may feel that I can fix the world. And that's not bad if we see it that let me become an instrument of God. Somebody may work to remove poverty from the world. Somebody may help to heal sickness in the world. Somebody may want to give education. There are different causes that different people may take up. But it is not just we who are trying to create meaning in the world. There is a higher order. There is a higher meaning. And we can become an instrument in that. And the purpose of Varnashram ultimately is that we all have certain interests. And those interests, we use it in the service of the Lord. The purpose of Varnashram is Ataha Pumbir Dujasreshta Varnashrama Vibhagasha Sanushthitasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. So by nature, a Brahmanical person will want to be intellectual, will want to analyze. But then use that analysis to share higher philosophical and spiritual wisdom with others. Somebody might want to be an artist, and wherever they see something, they want to depict it attractively. That's fine. But do it in a mood of the service to the Lord. So we can be a part of a higher plan. So it's not just we trying to create some small pocket of meaning in a meaningless world. There is a higher meaning even if we don't see it, and we can be a part of that bigger team. It's like the world can be compared in this context to a hospital. And now in a hospital, if we go backwards, that the world is said to be Dukkhalaya. Now this can lead to some people becoming very pessimistic, or it can also lead people to think that the Gita's teaching is very pessimistic. But it's not that simple. If you see, Arjuna is in tears at the start of the Gita. And in the middle of the Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, comes to the point, Dukkhalema Shashvatam. That's 8.15, approximately in the middle of the Gita. Now, Krishna does not say that, yes, this world is Dukkhalaya, you are Dukkhi, therefore my Gita is true, and stay Dukkhi now. That is not at all the mood of the Gita. The point is, yes, there is distress in the world. So how do we understand that this world is a place of distress? The most compassionate metaphor that I have found for understanding this is that of a hospital. In a hospital, pain is unavoidable. Pain will always be there. But the purpose of the hospital is not to cause pain. Yes, there may be some things in the hospital which may cause pain. An injection causes pain, a surgery causes pain, a bitter medicine causes pain. But the overall purpose of the hospital is not to cause pain. Like somebody who doesn't know what is a hospital, a small child is just comes into a hospital and says, there are people in pain everywhere. But appreciate that things are moving for a good purpose. That's the first part. That there is some sense in what is happening. So yes, this person might be screaming over here. This person might be coming over here. One of my friends works in the emergency department, and he had invited me to come there. I had to do some tests in America. So when I went there, this was in Chicago, and it was in a high crime area, and like people were coming with bullet wounds and car crashes, and it's quite ghastly. But then, while there's a lot of pain over there, but there is a purpose over there. Sorry, there is an order over there. So appreciate that if this world is like a hospital, there is pain, but things are moving for good. And the second connect is, we can just be witnesses of what is going on, or we can be a part of the medical staff. Each one of us can play a part in the overall healing that is happening in the hospital. Some people may have a more visible and prominent part. Some people may have a less visible or a less prominent part. But every one of us can connect. And so we want peace, but we don't just want peace in our life. We want purpose. So when we connect with the Lord, it is not just for forgetting the world. It is actually also for giving a higher direction to our efforts to make whatever things we can make better in the world. So if we are parents, taking care of our children is a very important responsibility. But we understand that I alone am not a parent in this messy world, trying to keep my messy child in control. It's like, this child is a part of Krishna, I am a part of Krishna, and Krishna has entrusted this child in my care. And as a service to Krishna, let me be the best parent that I can be. So whatever activities we are doing, we can get that higher vision, and we can become much more affirmative in what we are doing. Though Srila Prabhupada did say that we need to be pessimistic about the world. But Prabhupada himself was not pessimistic. If he had been pessimistic, he would never have been able to go to America all alone at the age of nearly 70, after having a track record of no visible success in India for so many years, though substantial success. So, if we are a spiritualist means we have to be an optimist. That's what it is, that if we actually see Krishna, then we need to see that Krishna's hand is there in the world and Krishna's hand is there in my life. And therefore, things are moving in a positive direction. So to be a spiritualist means to be an optimist. And if we are a spiritualist and we are a pessimist, and that means we may not be a philosophical atheist, but we are being a psychological atheist. Philosophically, we may accept that God exists, but in terms of the way our emotions are, it is as if God doesn't exist at all. And everything is just going wrong in my life. So that's why theism, and not just theism, but spirituality. That means theism is just God exists. But spiritualist means that our spirituality is an active part of our life. Spiritualist needs to be an optimist. Now that doesn't mean that every single thing that we do will work out. Of course not. Srila Prabhupada himself tried many things and they didn't work. So it's not that if somebody is a doctor in a prominent hospital, not that every patient is going to survive. There will be unfortunate things that happen. But overall, we are a part of something good. And so that in this understanding, we're not yet still come to the point of pleasing God. But the idea is that if somebody is a doctor or somebody is a nurse, somebody is a caregiver in some way, you can say one purpose is to treat the patient and heal the patient, of course. But if they are being trained by some senior doctor, then their other purpose is also to please the doctor. Now sometimes the patient may die, but if they did everything properly, their authority may still be pleased. And if they're pleasing their authority, they are doing their part better. And that brings us in the last part of this, what it means to pleasure, that we connect and then we target the Lord. Target means not to shoot an arrow at the Lord, but the Lord becomes our target. The ultimate purpose of the hospital is not to make everyone in the hospital healthy. The ultimate purpose is that we go home from the hospital. So the world will be Dukkhalaya, and at one level, we need to play our part in trying to fix things in the world. But it's just as important that we don't get our sense of self-worth and pleasure or satisfaction only from our capacity to fix things in this world. We understand that I have a life separate from my life in this world. I have many roles to play in this world and they are important. But beyond the roles that I am playing as a parent, as a professional, as a citizen of a particular country, all these roles are there and I need to play my role, play my part in the roles. But beyond that, I as a soul have a life of my own. And that life is in relationship with Krishna. So here when we target Krishna, we see that Krishna himself is a source of pleasure. Not just a source of pleasure, he's the source of the supreme pleasure. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Govinda Lilamrut says that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and the supreme source of enjoyment. He's not only the Bhokta Ram, but he's Ram and he's Raman. He's Ramati and Ramayati. He enjoys and he gives enjoyment. So when we were in the yatra, we were hearing the katha of Krishna and we completely absorbed. We just go out of this world in one sense. That there is a higher reality and that reality is beckoning us, it's inviting us. And that pleasure that we get, for us while we are in this world, we target Krishna, but it's not that we reject the world. We go through the world towards Krishna, but we understand that ultimately my purpose is to please Krishna. So we please Krishna, that when we target Krishna, what it means is that yes, we are in this world and we do our roles in this world. But through doing our roles in the world, ultimately we are meant to go towards Krishna. So when we keep our target as Krishna, this is where pleasing Krishna starts making not just some sense, but it starts making the supreme sense. So initially, it is that when you say connect, that is the level of 9.27. Yat karoshi yat ashnasi yat juhosi dadasi yat. Whatever you do, you offer to me. But then when Krishna becomes our target, that is, what Chakravarti Pad talks as a higher level, ma manusmara yudhyacha. That it is not that I do what I think is important and I offer it to Krishna. It is that I understand Krishna is the most important, and then whatever I do it as a service to him, as a part of his plan. So when Krishna becomes our target, that is where we understand that in pleasing Krishna, there is a whole life of love, and there's a whole world, so in fact a whole universe of immense joy that is there. Iti druk swalila bir ananda kunde. So iti druk, see this druk, just behold, Krishna is showing it to us. Swalila bir, my pastimes, it's ananda kunde. It's a giant lake of joy in which we are meant to immerse ourselves. So the pleasing the Lord, yes, we may do yajna, we may do puja, we may do dan, and all these, we may do our various roles. The first in the list, that was putena, that means whatever is considered good work in this world. And then there are specific religious activity that are mentioned. But the purpose of all of these is ultimately to please the Lord. So pleasing the Lord means acting in harmony with God's love. That brings me to the last part, the takeaway for us. That if we understand all this, then what could be the takeaway for us? At one level, whatever place we are in, we can try to cultivate curiosity. That, okay, what is Krishna teaching me over here? What does Krishna want me to do over here? Instead of simply seeing things from a self-centered perspective. Now, I told this person to do this, why didn't that person listen to me? I wanted things to happen this way, why are things happening this way? Things are happening that way. So, instead of having that, we can just cultivate curiosity, yes. Now, that does not mean suddenly we'll get some flash of illumination that, oh, Krishna will come in some dream and tell us, okay, this is my plan here right now. Curiosity means that we see, okay, how can I act here in a mood of service? This is the situation I am in. Maybe I would have preferred to be in a different situation, but this is the situation I'm in right now. How can I please Krishna in this situation? Srila Prabhupada writes in a letter to Jayapataka Maharaj that he gives, what does Krishna consciousness mean? He says 5 things. First he says, to understand that Krishna is in control. That, to understand that Krishna is always in control. That things are happening for ultimately good purpose. That to be fixed in doing our part. To not be attached to results and to absorb ourselves in remembering Krishna. So I'm paraphrasing over here. But the point is that we understand that I'm a part of Krishna, but ultimately, and I want to fix things in this world, but ultimately, my target is Krishna. So we celebrated Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day just a couple of days ago. So, we will see that I was talking with Bhurujan Prabhu in Vrindavan the next day, and he was telling me that, he was there in the Vrindavan temple for the evening ceremony. So different devotees were giving offerings, and he said that I felt each of them has such a different understanding of Prabhupada. The quotes from Prabhupada that they were highlighting, the pastimes that they were remembering. Their vision of Srila Prabhupada is so different from mine. He said that but that didn't make me feel any insecure. It just, Prabhupada, like Krishna, attracts different people in different ways and engages different people in different ways. So how I connect with Krishna, how I become an instrument for Krishna, may be very different from how someone else becomes an instrument for Krishna. But ultimately, through it all, we are trying to please Krishna. That is our target. So when we have that as the target, then whatever we do and whatever level of success we get in the world in terms of getting the thing done or getting people to appreciate and applaud what we are doing, ultimately our focus is to please Krishna. So in this way, pleasing Krishna is not just an abstract, irrelevant, religious or cultish activity. It's a universally beneficial activity. Because by pleasing Krishna, we do the best that we can for making things better in the outer world and for turning ourselves towards not just the better reality, but the best reality, that is Krishna and his love for us. So I'll summarize. We talked about how to make sense of the theme of pleasing Krishna. What does it mean? So pleasing Krishna is actually the most meaningful way to live. It is not something which is irrelevant for most people. It is actually the way we can live most meaningfully. So I talked about 3 points. Chit, we talked about the context was that this is the first major speech by Krishna. And in that speech, what is happening? We have a vision given. I talked about how in all the work that we do, we have to pay attention to the details, but we also have to be aware of the bigger purpose. And both go together, that's the best. So that awareness of the bigger purpose is what is focused on in this particular verse. That whatever we are doing, we do it for pleasing Krishna. Then in the insight part, I talked about that pleasing Krishna, what does it mean? At one level, to act in harmony with God's love. So how do we act in harmony with God's love? For that, I talked about 3 levels. That we took the acronym ACT, and does anyone remember ACT? A was appreciate that there is some higher purpose, that even if things don't make sense, there is some sense. So the underlying metaphor I talked about, the world is like a hospital. There might be a lot of pain, and especially in the emergency department, it seems to be chaos. Oh, this accident is happening, this is happening, that is happening. When we appreciate that God is in charge and things are moving towards something good, that gives us a sense of peace. Then it is not just a passive appreciation, we can connect. That means that we can be a part of God's plan. We can also do something of value with our life. That is where we get a sense of purpose. So we talked about this image that God is not just up there, that actually the whole world is included within God, that his jurisdiction extends everywhere. So first is we appreciate God's controllership, and then we connect with God while acting in the world, and finally we make God our target. That while I'm trying to fix things in this world as a part of my roles and responsibilities here, but ultimately my self-worth and satisfaction, they come not so much from my capacity to fix things, but from my relationship with Krishna. That target is to understand that there is a higher world of love and I need to enter that world. That gives us the supreme pleasure. And the takeaway for us was, in all situations, especially in situations where things don't seem to be making any sense, we can try to cultivate curiosity. What is Krishna doing over here? How can I be of service in this situation? How can I play a part in pleasing Krishna in this situation? And that's how we can always, if we have that attitude of curiosity, we can always cultivate Krishna consciousness, because we can always do something. Maybe what we do may not be successful. We can always do something in a mood of service to please Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any quick question or comment? Yes, Prabhu. Here, Michael. Here. You have a question?
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, in that takeaway message, you have mentioned that 5 things you started out. you said that Krishna is in control, then you said about Gurijan Prabhu's example. So I thought maybe second, third, or you have covered that.
Okay, all the 5 things, basically, the 5 things that I mentioned was Krishna is in control, things are moving as they are meant to. That's the same things. I'll find that letter and maybe I'll give it to personal, privately. Things are as they are meant to be, that we act in the mood of service, we try to please Krishna, and ultimately we immerse ourselves in remembrance of Krishna. So it's not exactly 5 distinct things, but it's more or less very similar to what I talked about ACT that way. Okay.
And second thing is, Prabhu, that in this insight part, you have mentioned how first thing we appreciate whatever is there, Krishna is controlling and he's doing it, and it's best. Then we connect, find a purpose, and how we can then serve in this scenario. But then sometimes when the things which people think is like very bad that has happened, Krishna can't do this, right? But we can understand the karma and all are involved in that. We cannot say like this. But then when we still we have to appreciate Tattenu Kampan, like this should have happened. But we cannot speak to them at that point. Otherwise it will be like hard-hearted.
Yeah, correct.
So in that sense, how do we appreciate or...
Okay, see, terrible things happen in the world, and can we help others appreciate that there is some God's plan over there? Ultimately, in life, we have a choice. The fundamental choice which we all have to make is that does life make sense or is life senseless? Or you could make it even more practical. Will my life be sensible or senseless? So there will always be pockets in our life where things will just not make sense. And sometimes they can be more than pockets. So let me put it another way. Let's put it this way. See, if this is existence. Now, there are just 2 ways we can look at existence. Science functionally is not atheistic but non-theistic as of it exists now. Science doesn't bring God into the picture. But then, if we consider this as existence, within existence, science tries to find islands of meaning. Oh, why did this apple fall down? Oh, there's a law of gravity by which this happens. Why did this volcano explode over here? Oh, because there is the change of temperature and there's this pressure and all that. So basically, all of science is an attempt to make sense of things in the world. So now if that's what we human beings try to do. When we interact with people, we try to make sense of why is this person acting in this way. So now we all try to find some pockets of sense in the world. Now, are these pockets of sense existing at random in isolation? Is existence like an ocean of meaninglessness in which somehow some islands of meaning have come up? That's one way of looking at it. So if we look at the non-theistic worldview, that the whole existence is like an ocean of meaninglessness. And somehow some pockets of meaning have come over there. Some islands of meaning have come. The other alternative is that if we consider all of existence, now that within existence, there will be some islands of meaninglessness. Why did this happen? We will not be able to make sense of it. If you see in the Mahabharata, after Yudhishthira Maharaj is exiled, one consistent question he's asking the various sages is, how do I make sense of what happened in my life? I was trying to be a good person, and even when he gambled, that was out of his goodness, not out of his greed. He wanted to obey his elders. So, Yudhishthira was called for gambling by Dhritarashtra. So, why did this happen to me? And it's no one who really gives him a very clear answer. They give the way they give answer is by telling about people who have been in similar situations and suffered more than you. But nobody gives him a flashback. You were so-and-so in this life, and you did this, and this person was like this, and that person did that, and that's why now you're together. Krishna is omniscient. You can say the sages may not be omniscient. Krishna is omniscient, but even Krishna does not give Arjuna any flashback about, why does he have to fight against Bhishma and Drona? So the whole focus of the Our scriptures is more forward looking than backward looking. The karma is a broad way to give, the philosophy of karma is a broad way to give us a sense of purposefulness for our life. That my action, sometimes the focus of karma is put too much on judgment. That you did something bad and that's why you are suffering. But that is not the mood of the Gita in emphasizing karma. Nowhere in the Gita presents karma as a doctrine of judgment directly. It's more of encouragement. That we have agency, our actions matter. Even if they don't seem to matter sometimes. Sometimes we may be going through phases of negative karma when no matter what we do, it doesn't seem to make any difference. But that doesn't mean it will never make any difference. We all have seen in our lives, sometimes we do our best and not only we don't get the best, we get the worst. But there are many other times when we have done our part and we have got something good. Sometimes we got better than what we deserve also. So the idea is that there will be areas in our life where it will never make sense. But do we want to extrapolate from there that nothing makes sense? Or are we still open to the idea, yes, I don't know why this happened, but overall things do have a purpose. So let me continue on. So that's why rather than thinking of, is God the cause of our suffering? Is karma the cause of our suffering? The focus of the Gita is more on that through dharma and through bhakti, we can find healing even amid our suffering. That you keep doing your part, that is your dharma, and do it in the mood of service to God, that's bhakti. And we can make our situation better. So, Macchittaha sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyati. One way to understand that is, greater than the world's power to hurt us is Krishna's power to heal us. So we don't get too caught in why the world is hurting me in this way. But greater than the world's power to hurt me is God's power to heal me. Therefore, let me stay connected with God and let me act to serve God and please God in whatever situation life puts me in. Whatever karma may get me to, Krishna will get me through. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji, one quick question.
Hello. Thank you very much for such an informative class. Prabhuji, we have always heard in classes that this is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. Today it was a different perspective that you gave, that though we are experiencing pain, the analogy that you gave about the hospital. So when we go to the hospital, there is a pain of the medicines and the procedures that we are going through. But the principle and the concept of we going to the hospital is to relieve the pain. So it was a very beautiful analogy that it was a very positive way of looking at Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. Yes. So can you just elaborate a little more on this concept of relieving pain rather than looking at world as Dukhalayam Ashashvatam? And just one more thing I really liked in this class was a spiritualist has to be optimistic. If we become pessimistic, then it's a psychological atheist. That's my huge takeaway from this class. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So what does being how do we see this idea of Dukhalayam positively? Yes, two main points. That when the Gita says the world is Dukhalaya, it does not spend much time on that. It's not even one verse. It is not even one line in a verse. It is half a line it's a half a line in one verse. It's almost like a passing thing. Yeah, that's just true. It's Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. Later on, that is 8.15, later on 9.33, Krishna says something similar. Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvama. So that is not the emphasis. So when it says the word Dukhalayam, it is in one sense telling us what it considers its obvious, self-evident reality. This is the fact of life. That there will be distress in the world. And the parallel could be Himalaya. If you consider, just before I went to Vrindavan, I was in Rishikesh. We had we had a retreat over there. So now if you go to the Himalayas, it's going to be cold. But is cold cold cannot be avoided in the Himalayas. But is cold the only thing to experience in the Himalayas? No, there is so much more. Now, there is the beauty of the flora and the fauna. There is the adventure of trekking, and there is the spiritual joy of getting to holy places. There is a whole universe to experience in the Himalayas. But we can open ourselves to that experience only when we come to terms with the reality that it's going to be cold. If we fixate, oh, it's so cold, it's so cold, it's so cold, then people around us will say, it's what you're saying is so old, so old, so old. Get used to it. So, when the Gita says this world is dukkhalaya, that means that distress, dissatisfaction, disappointment, all these will always be components of our life's experience. Just as cold will always be a component of any visit to the Himalayas. But it doesn't have to be our only experience. So, to the extent we try to eliminate cold from our experience of the Himalayas, even the slightest cold will make us miserable. Similarly, when we make the mission of our life to remove all distress from our life, that itself will increase distress in our life. Isn't it? If we make the mission of our life, there should not be a single problem in my life. That purpose itself will make even the smallest problem coming as a sign of our failure. And that will make us miserable. So when it says the world is dukkhalaya, make peace with the fact that there will be some dissatisfaction, some distress, some disappointment in life. Now, having accepted that does not mean that we have to increase the distress. It's that when we go to the Himalayas, it's always going to be cold. But that doesn't mean we can't go with warm clothes. That doesn't mean that we cannot create some heating arrangements. But we understand that no matter how many warm clothes I wear, no matter how heating arrangement I create, some cold, I'll experience some cold somewhere. But the point of being in the Himalayas, is not just to expose ourselves to cold. It is neither to protect ourselves from cold. The point of being in the Himalayas is to experience the beauty of the nature over there, to experience the presence of divinity and spirituality over there. There is a higher experience over there available. So similarly, that dukkhalaya, I accept that dukkha will be there in my life, but that doesn't mean I have to increase the dukkha, nor do I have to try to eliminate dukkha. I have to have a higher purpose over there. And in both the verses where Krishna talks about dukkhalaya, what is his point? Maam upetya punarjanma dukkhalaya vashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata. Maam upetya. Know that this world is dukkhalaya, therefore worship me. Similar 9.33. Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. So, cultivate a higher purpose in life. And that's why, pleasure is a very fragile purpose for life. Because all of us will have times in our life when there'll just be no pleasure. And if pleasure is the driving purpose of our life, we'll start feeling, what is the point of living when there is no pleasure? And now as a higher worldview is being taken away from many people, because people have become non-theistic or atheistic, then if there's no pleasure, people actually think, what is the point of living? And they end their life. It's oversimplified understanding. Not so oversimplified, it's a very simplistic understanding of suicide. But my point is that if somebody's conception of life is, it should be enjoyable. It's for enjoyment. Then life is very demanding. Pleasure is too fragile and too superficial a purpose to sustain us through life's troubles. So the Gita says that the purpose of life is not enjoyment. It is actually not enjoyment, but it is purification. It is elevation of our consciousness towards Krishna. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalair indriyairapi. Yoginah karma kurvanti sangam tyaktva atma shuddhaye. So when we go to the Himalayas, we don't just go for pleasure. We go there for a purpose bigger than pleasure. Yes, there'll be wonderful moments of pleasure over there also when we get to see a holy place or we see the beauty of nature. But if pleasure alone were the purpose, why would anyone go through all the hardship of going to the Himalayas? So yes, in our life, pleasure will be there. But pleasure is too limited a purpose for life itself. And pleasure is too limited a purpose even for bhakti. It's Yashodama is in anxiety at times when Krishna has disappeared somewhere or Krishna is committing mischief and she's getting complaints. So there is a richness to life and a richness to relationships that becomes impoverished when we become too pleasure-centered. Pleasure is definitely there even in the spiritual world. But it's not only pleasure. There's a rich array of emotions and they fulfill our heart. So like that, when we see that my purpose of life is to act in a way that I come closer to Krishna, that I become purified, then I may or may not get success in whatever I do. But I can always get purified through whatever I do. And that's the basis for our optimism. Okay? Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.